You know what time it is? I said, do you know what time it is? It's time for KP's Video News.
It's time for KP's Video News. And we're going to jump right in, folks, because a couple of these stories I got here are kind of long. I'm going to try to read them all the way through. And starting with story number 1, the Ohio National Guard ordered to assist at jail facility 67 inmates and 100 staff members statewide test positive for the coronavirus. Cleveland, Ohio, the number of inmates and correctional staff facility test positive for coronavirus topped more than 160. The Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections reported. The number of confirmed coronavirus infections in inmates hit 67. The majority of confirmed cases are reported out of Pickaway Correctional Institution, and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine announced on Monday that an inmate who tested positive for the coronavirus died, the state's first inmate death. Because a large portion of the prison staff is out with the infection, Governor DeWine ordered that the Ohio National Guard assist with healthcare operations at the Pickaway facility. As of Monday, 100 staff members tested positive for the coronavirus, with most of them at Marion Correctional Institution. 12 state correction facilities are under full quarantine. Governor DeWine recently recommended that more than 200 inmates, including pregnant prisoners, women and children, and individuals nearing release date, to be released to create more space in the prison population. So they're trying to get that straight. Then switching over to story number 2, this has to deal with Chicago and Cook County Jail. And thank God, one of my homeboys that was there is retired now. So Big Chuck, man, you got out of there just in time. All right, 238 inmates infected with coronavirus at Chicago's Cook County Jail. As coronavirus cases continue to rise in the country, Cook County Jail in Chicago, Illinois, has recorded the highest number of cases in a single area in the entire country. They have had a total of 355 cases since the pandemic started, 238 inmates and 115 staff members. The outbreak of the virus apparently started with 2 inmates who were the first ones to test positive for the coronavirus about 2 weeks ago. So since 2 weeks ago, now it's 238. So that's going to multiply it by 100 times in 2 weeks. That's unbelievable. The Cook County Sheriff's Office, which operates the jail, which is one of the country's largest with more than 4,500 inmates, noted that the numbers could increase even more as the vast majority of the inmates have yet to be tested. The inmates who have tested positive have already been placed in a quarantine area, while at least 17 who had complicated symptoms have been hospitalized. One inmate who was coronavirus positive apparently died of complications from the virus. This has been a difficult time for everyone, Cook County Sheriff Thomas Dart said. With rapid transmissions of the coronavirus behind bars have been linked to the overcrowded and unsanitary conditions in jails that allegedly helped spread the virus. According to reports, at least 1,300 coronavirus cases are from U.S. jails, including 32 deaths. In line with that, some authorities were prompted to release thousands of inmates who were mostly awaiting trial or sentence for nonviolent crimes to decrease the prison population. Visitations have been prohibited, also to prevent the spread to people outside the prison. And so this other story, goes hand in hand with that. This is story number 3, and this is out of Chicago as well. And this is like just a couple of days ago, and it's another update. Said black people account for 72% of coronavirus deaths in Chicago, while making up less than a third of the city's population, the mayor says. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot said 72% of the people in Chicago who have died from the coronavirus are black people, black African Americans, and making up just 30% of the city's population. Lightfoot said she had created a racial equity rapid response team to investigate how to respond to the disproportionate impact, whether it's diabetes, heart disease, upper respiratory illness, the kind of things we've been talking about for a long time that plague black Chicago that lead to life expectancy gaps, the mayor said. The virus attacks those underlying conditions with a vengeance. Well, the sidebar here. Seems like every city now that has a high number of black people dying, they're all saying the same thing over and over and over again. And it's always the same thing over and over. It's like they blaming it on the people that are getting the disease. They blaming the disease on them. And this is ridiculous, man. It's totally ridiculous. All right, back to the story. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot said Sunday that nearly 3/4 of the people who have died from the coronavirus in Chicago were black, despite the fact that the city's population is just 30% African Americans. Lightfoot, who made the comments on Face the Nation, said she directed that those administrating the coronavirus tests in the city to also begin recording demographic information of the people being tested. You start by making sure you've got the data. Lightfoot, who has been Chicago's mayor since last year, said. According to the data from the U.S. Census Bureau, Chicago's population is 49% white, 30% black. Lightfoot said she's created a racial equity response team. She's repeating herself. We have street intervention folks who normally work on responding to violence. We are going all in a hyper-local focus to make sure that we're tapping into those neighborhoods where there's a high death rate, where there's a high positive test rate. Lightfoot noted that this is an issue that is not unique to Chicago. Unfortunately, we're seeing similar kinds of numbers reported across the country in large urban areas, she said. The answer that we believe is right is because of underlying conditions that people of color, particularly black folks, suffer from. Analysis from the Washington Post found that in places in the United States where the coronavirus demographic data are available, counties with the majority black have 3 times the rate of infection and about 6 times the rate of death as counties with majority white residents. On Friday, the U.S. Surgeon General acknowledged the disproportionate impact. So, this is what they're trying to say. It's like what they said, but they're trying to clean it up a little bit here by saying we don't think people of color are biologically or genetically disposed to get COVID-19. Oh boy. But they are socially predisposed to coronavirus exposure and have a high incidence of the very diseases that put you at risk for severe complications with coronavirus. So, on one hand, it's saying it's not biologically or genetically, black people are not biologically or genetically disposed to it, and then they switch it all up, and then they come back and say, well, you have a exposure, coronavirus exposure, with the higher incidence of the very diseases that put you at risk for the severe complications. So make up your mind, it's going to be one or the other. And this story here is an ongoing story, and it's only going to get worse as time goes on. So isolation, hey, it is what it is, folks. It is what it is.
KP's Video News. KP's Video News, yo. KP Video News.
Peace.